You're listening to TG1F, an F1 podcast with Kate and Nicole.
We're your hosts. I'm Kate.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is our show where, you know what? Let's do something a little different.
Welcome to TG1F's Read an F1 Romance Novel Month.
F1 romance, author interviews, book recommendations, oh my.
Join us for a month-long celebration of F1 romance authors and the stories that get our hearts racing.
Because while F1 drivers are filling their shelves with trophies, we're filling yours with F1 romance novels.
Who are we talking to today, Kate?
Turn the page and find out. Welcome to the show, Simone Soltani. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
We're really excited to talk to you about Cross the Line and the Lights Out series. So to kick things off, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a synopsis about what they can expect with Cross the Line, a little bit about the characters, the plot line, if there's any spice, any general themes, and kind of what can they expect?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, so Cross the Line is a sweet and spicy brother's best friend F1 romance. So they have Anderson, who is a Formula One driver. And he's currently dealing with a bit of a PR nightmare after his last social media manager quit in a blaze of glory and made some posts that don't exactly paint him in a good light. And his team and his sponsors are very, very mad at him. And so when his best friend's little sister, Willow, when they run into each other at a party in Monaco, she's just graduated from college, she's looking for a job, and she has a degree in sports marketing. And so Deb is like, she's perfect. I've got to hire her. She can fix this. She can help, make all of this better. But there's just one problem. They shared a little kiss last year, and neither one of them has been able to stop thinking about it since. But that's going to be a problem because, that's her older brother's best friend, and now he's her boss. So they're trying to keep things strictly platonic, but, that doesn't always happen.
Oh, wow.
I love that.
Yes.
Oh man, okay, I love it. One of the characters in this book manages a chronic illness. That's like a theme, but also is still living a really full and happy life. So, can you tell us about that representation and why that was important for you, and kind of the way that you handled it in the story?
Yeah, absolutely. So Willow, our female main character, she deals with hypermobility. So essentially she has chronic pain and her joints don't exactly stay where they're supposed to. So she deals with a lot of, dislocated joints and, things slipping out of place and, having a difficult time, managing that sort of chronic illness. And so it's based off my own experiences. I have something called Ehlers-Danlos. I have the hypermobile type. And, it's one of those things where it's part of my life, but, it doesn't rule my entire life. Like, yes, it influences the choices I make and, the activities I do, and how I take care of my body. But, my whole world doesn't revolve around it. And so I wanted to, not only have that representation in a character that I wrote, and so that other people, with this same chronic illness can see themselves represented. But, I also wanted to show that, it doesn't have to be at the forefront. So this is something she deals with throughout the book. But, it's not like it's a major plot point. And it's not like, we're seeing her getting injured all the time and stuff like that and having to deal with it. But it's like, we see those moments where she's just like, okay, I might need to slow down a little bit. Or, okay, maybe I shouldn't wear those beautiful high heels because I know they're death traps, but they're gorgeous anyway. Just the little choices she makes and, how the people around her treat her and how they help her, manage her pain and this condition and stuff like that, while also, not making it out to be like that's all she is. And so I wanted people to be able to, see that kind of representation. And, I wanted it for myself, for selfish reasons.
Yeah. I think it's so important to be able to write from a unique perspective and create a character that's born out of your own want and need, because I think it just makes the storytelling experience so much more authentic. And I'm sure, as readers are reading this, they're recognizing how you're writing from a place of special perspective. So I'm sure it just adds a whole nother level of care and consideration.
Yeah, I've gotten some really beautiful messages from people who've read the book so far. So, the book came out earlier in the UK, it came out in May. And so, since then I've gotten a lot of these messages from people who are just like, yeah, I have hypermobility and it was great to see, this kind of character on the page. Or, I've also gotten some messages from people being like, I suspected I might have this. And so I went to the doctor and I got a
Wow.
diagnosis thanks to your book. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that means a lot to me because,
Wow.
a diagnosis for, Ehlers-Danlos and hypermobility can be hard to come by sometimes. And so, just knowing that somebody was brave enough, first of all, to, go to their doctor, be like, hey, I think I have this, and then go through all the testing and, that kind of stuff. I'm just like, good for you. I'm glad this could help in that way.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really special.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. Um, and I'm sure for people that, are suffering from or living with other chronic illnesses that it maybe not the same kind, but feel seen by the fact that, you can live with this illness, but it doesn't have to be like your main character trait or plot point of life. And I'm sure that's really special for people to just be able to read this and be like, okay, someone gets it,
Yeah.
and be able to make connections about that. That's really special. Another kind of theme in this book, and you've said that, this book was intentionally pretty sweet and wholesome, but adds in this kind of like drama and jeopardy based on the fact that it was, a brother's best friend. So can you tell us more about how you kind of mapped out the plot for this book, and how do you kind of come up with this theme, or how you want people to feel, and then kind of decide what kind of, drama to inject into it?
Yeah, so with the way I write, I always have like the idea first, and then I ask myself, okay, well, who needs to be telling this story? And, once I ask myself that question, sometimes other ideas work their way in. And so my original idea for the book was, okay, we have this Formula One driver who's dealing with this terrible scandal, and he needs someone to help him fix it. And then from
Mm-hmm.
there, I was just like, okay, well, who do I want, this F1 driver to be? Like, what do I want his personality to be? I'm like, okay, he's fun, he's bold, he's brash, that kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, well, who would bounce off of that well? And then I'm like, okay, maybe a kind of a sweeter, a little bit more soft spoken, but still, she knows who she is kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, okay, well, what other elements of drama could we work into there? It's like, okay, he's going to be her boss already, but let's raise the stakes a little bit, let's make that her
Yeah.
brother's best friend. So, it's just like there are certain romance tropes that, I really love, and I love, being able to work in, even if it's just in a small way, and then, kind of building and building and building from there, and, making it your own. It's just, we see these tropes over and over and over again. But the one
Yeah.
beautiful thing about, fiction, and especially romance, is you can have these same tropes, but every writer presents them in such a different way. And I think that's just, it's so cool because, you could tell, two different writers the same brief being like, okay, here's a summary of a book I want to see. Write it for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Yeah.
And then you get two completely different things. And so, that's also what I love about Brother's Best Friend, because there's a bunch of different ways you can take it. So yeah, it's just, who needs to tell the story and what kind of extra drama can we bring to the table?
Yeah. Speaking of that, what would you say your favorite trope to write is? And alternatively, what is a trope that you're really excited to kind of dabble in at some point?
Let's see. I am a sucker for enemies to lovers. That's been my go-to since the very beginning. Like in the fan fiction days, I'm like, all right, let's see what enemies to
Yes.
lovers we can find. So that's my favorite because they're always gonna be like there's that banter, and then just that character development from when they go from like absolutely despising each other to being like, oh, maybe you're not so bad, and oh no, you're not so bad, to oh no, I'm attracted to you, and then
Yeah.
all of the craziness that comes with that. And then one that I want to write, I don't think I've ever written like a full like second chance romance,
Okay.
but it's one of my favorites to read because there's just so much history. There's that lore there, those
Mm.
connections between the characters, like what drove them apart in the first place, what's going to
Mm.
bring them back together. And so it can just be so
Yeah.
juicy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, one of these days we'll get around to that one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I can't wait for that.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, perfect. I know enemies to lovers is just such a good one because there's just such a fine line between hate and love. It's just both is very passionate, so it's like so much fun as like a reader. It's just so fun to like be in that and be like, I know what's gonna happen here.
Exactly.
Like,
I know what's coming
yeah,
for me too.
yeah, it's like everyone sees
You're
it
like,
except for
oh.
you.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's what I love about it. I'm like, everybody else sees it. Why can't you? But you know what?
yeah.
Don't see it for a
Because
little
you
while.
think
Like, let me
you think
investigate.
you feel hatred, but that's not it. That's not what you're
Surprise!
feeling.
It's love.
Yeah. So bringing back to F1 a little bit. So tell us about your journey into becoming a fan of the sport.
So my journey probably started about like a decade ago, like back when I was in college. I'm aging myself a little bit. I had a friend
It's
who
okay,
was
both of us as well. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
been
It's been a
I'm
while.
like
It's been a
10
hot
years.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no, that was just a couple years ago.
I know. It's like I
No,
got invited for my like 10-year reunion, and I was like, 10 years? Are we sure about
yeah,
that?
it's insane.
It's
Yeah.
tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's tough.
But back in college, I had a friend who used to love watching Top Gear. And so it
Mm.
was always kind of like on in the background in their dorm room. And one day, like I didn't really pay attention to it. I was too busy doing like schoolwork or other things. And, one day they were interviewing an F1 driver. I cannot remember who it was, but I started paying attention. I was just like, oh, this is interesting. This person seems like they've lived a pretty fascinating life. Like, you know what? Let me look into this a little bit. And so I started my, deep dive into the sport, and then I stumbled upon Lewis Hamilton. And I was just
That'll
like,
do it.
oh, okay, this is
That'll
a
do it.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. What really got
Yeah.
me, I was just like, this is a person who looks like me, who is black biracial, and,
Yep.
is in this very white sport and is dominating, honestly. And, it was just like, oh, I want to know more about this person, but, not just that, but about this sport and all of the things that go into it. And that was it. I was hooked ever since.
I love that.
I'm obsessed. And this is your debut novel, correct? Okay. So what was it? When was that moment when you're like, one, I'm going to write a book, and two, I'm going to write a book about Formula One? What was kind of the precipice for you?
So I've been writing books and fan fiction and writing online, gosh, since I was like 13, 14. So it's
Hey,
been
join
a
the club.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been around for a while. I've been writing a bunch of different things, and it's just like, I've always loved romance. I've always loved sports. I'm a big, fan of many sports, but, F1 has always kind of been the biggest. And, I was at a place, probably when I was probably like 2 years ago. It was, I was just like, I was ready to write something that combined, the things that I loved, which was romance and Formula One. And so, this is technically like my debut traditionally published novel, but like I've been, dabbling in other things ever since. And, this is one of those projects that you have that's just so precious to you. And you're like, okay, well, I want to, just wait a little longer before I start working on it. Just to make sure, I have that skill set that I can, give it the time and attention it deserves. And then one day I was just like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's get this done.
Amazing.
It's incredible. I think it's really interesting to just hear these stories about, it's never too late. When it
Yeah.
comes to you, it comes to you, and put your work out into the world when you're ready.
Exactly. And it's just like, write the projects that you're passionate about in that moment. You can just stock these ideas for, as long as you want. They're not going to go anywhere. It's just like, you can always have them there in the back of your head. Just keep adding and adding and adding to them. Because that's what I did. Like I have this whole document that I started maybe in like 2016 that I just, was like adding little ideas here and there. And then, probably it was like, 2020 that I was like, oh, let me see how many books that I have ideas for here. It turned out to be like 10 books. And I was like, okay, we can't write that many.
Yeah.
So
It's not right now.
not right now. But yeah, it was just like, it just kept them on the back burner. And then when I was ready for it, I was just like, all right, you're there. Let's go. Let's do this.
I love it.
Incredible.
I love the concept of like starting out in like fan fiction on the internet at like 13. If you're comfortable sharing, what was your first fiction about?
Well, it was it was Draco Malfoy fan fiction, I must admit.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
classic.
Yeah,
Hell
no,
yeah.
very classic. It was just like, it was one
Yeah.
of those, like, original female characters, but like she was just such a Mary Sue, like the kind of, she's perfect, she has all the money, she has all the,
Yeah.
the talent and this and that, and I'm like, oh gosh, all right, well, glad we moved on from that, but it was a great way to get into it.
We've
Yes,
diversified at this
exactly.
Everyone start somewhere.
Yes.
Nicole's was Jonas Brothers.
Classic. Yes.
Yeah.
Mine was 5 Seconds of Summer. Like, everyone starts somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. Yeah.
Although I'm like not sure if mine got nuked off the internet. I'm like, I think I did, but I got really nervous the other year talking to Nicole, and we had to like try to hack my old MySpace to like, or my old Tumblr to try and get it down. I still can't get into it, and I can't find it anywhere. So I'm like, I think it's nuked.
You just got to hope. It's one of those things where you're just like, if it's still out there, so be it. That is just the way it goes.
Like
I certainly didn't write under my name, so if it's
no,
out
same.
there,
I was like, this is an anonymous Tumblr.
As long as no one
fine.
finds the name, you're good.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even think I know what the name
I don't
was.
even remember the name.
Yeah.
So
I don't claim it either way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so Cross the Line is the first book in a series. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct.
So do we have an idea of timelines on when we might be able to continue this journey?
Yeah, so the next book comes out, late spring, early summer 2025. It's about one of the other drivers on the grid. And I think I can reveal one of the tropes so far. So the main trope of that one is accidentally married in Vegas.
Ooh, a little forced proximity.
Mm-hmm. You got that marriage of convenience worked in there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Exciting.
Yes.
Is it about the brother or no?
No, it's about a different driver. So, yeah, it should be a fun one.
I'm
would you say that in this journey at all, do you think that you pulled inspiration from any of the real life people on the grid? Obviously, these are original characters, but would you say you were like really intrigued by a certain person's point of view on something that you kind of incorporated, or, a certain feature that you were like, okay, this person, I love this part about this person, I'm going to incorporate it into this character that I've dreamt of?
Yeah, so a lot of the characters, like in my book, obviously are original characters. But they are definitely, the inspiration comes from, drivers past and present. So, in this book, it's very, he's very Danny Rick coded, I will say. But he's definitely got some, Pierre thrown in there, a little bit of Alex, a little bit of Logie Bear, just for, that American sort of vibe. And like, he drives for, an American team, kind of like Haas, but worse. If that's possible. Love Haas, but we got to be honest with ourselves.
we have to.
Yeah, we really do. But it's this all-American team. They pride themselves on having American drivers and an American factory and all that kind of stuff. And then you have this, brown main character who's just like, oh, okay, all right, like. There are some, iffy undertones here sometimes, and, some things he has to, battle against for that. But, it's like I wanted to make sure in this book that I worked in a little bit more diversity than is what, is on our current grid and, what's kind of been there in the past. Because, that's just something that's important to me. And I wanted, others to be able to be like, hey, this is kind of an idealized version of what we could have and what could be in the future.
Incredible.
Wow. I would say that a Danny Rick coded male main character. This is for Nicole. Nicole
Danny's son, Alex Rising, Pierre Moon. Like, I get it.
Yes, exactly. No, that is spot on. That is exactly how I would describe him.
That's incredible. All right, we're going to get into a quick little rapid fire round. So, first up, on the current grid, who is your favorite driver and what is your favorite team?
Lewis, and right now it's Mercedes. Next year it'll be Ferrari.
She said no loyalty to the team,
nope,
only
no
to
loyalty.
Lewis.
Yes.
Wherever he is, we're supporting.
Wherever he goes, I go.
Perfect.
I mean, that's fair. That's so fair.
You just got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's a number. Yeah, it's key to success. Number 2, outside of F1 romances, what is your favorite book or series that you've either read recently or of all time?
Of all time, I'm a big Emily Henry fan. She can do no wrong in my eyes with her books, honestly. I'm just like, Beach Read is probably one of my like top 5 reads of all time. It's just, it's
It's
so
so
good.
good.
Love her.
She like I fiend for a new Emily Henry book. I'm like, girl, keep them coming.
I have to ration
Directed
myself. It's just,
injected straight into my veins.
yep, I know. I'm like, every time I pick up a new one, I'm just like, don't read it right away. Don't read it too quickly.
You
Like,
have to
just read a couple
savor it.
chapters every day. Savor it. Exactly.
What is your my favorite is Book Lovers. My top is Book Lovers and then Beach Read. And I really liked Funny Story.
I liked Funny Story
My Funny
too.
Story.
Yeah. My top 3 is just a little bit swapped around. It's just Beach Read first, and then Book Lovers, and then Funny Story. Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, and final question. Are you familiar with the concept of the Amazing Race?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. So, as our final question, if you were to enter the Amazing Race, which character from Cross the Line would you choose as your partner to give you the best chance of winning?
Okay, first of all, I don't think it could be either main character. Sadly, love them to death, but they would not get me through it. I'm sorry. They simply wouldn't. That would be joking too much, and Willow would be a little bit too disorganized. And I'm already that person, so I don't need that extra. So it would probably be one of the side characters. So Dev's trainer, his name is Mark, one of his other friends. He is like this, 6'5", physical therapist, no nonsense, knows his stuff, is just ready to go at any second. I'm like, him. I'm picking him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
feels right.
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Well,
Perfect.
Simone, thank you so much for joining us on the pod today. We had such a pleasure chatting with you, learning more about Cross the Line. This is an opportunity for you to tell people where they can find you, where they can find your books, and anything that you have coming up that you want to promote.
Yeah, you can find Cross the Line in all bookstores as of July 23rd. You can find me on social media. On Instagram, I'm Simone Soltani. You can find me on my website, simonesoltani.com, and look out very soon for the announcement of book 2 in the Lights Out series.
Amazing.
Amazing. Can't wait. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to chat with us and bring our readers up to speed, pun intended, on everything that you have going on. We're really excited for everyone to check out Cross the Line and add that to their list.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Great. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye,
Take
Simone.
care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of TG1F, an F1 podcast with Kate and Nicole.
If you like what you heard, don't miss out on the fun between episodes.
Keep up with the chaos on Instagram at 2 Girls 1 Formula. That's spelled out TWO Girls numerical 1 Formula.
And check out our website, twogirls1formula.com, to shop cute fan-made F1 merch.
See you next week.
But like we said, in the meantime, we'll see you on the internet.